You're in the right place.
Come on in.
Come on in.
We're just getting in the way.
Okay. So Shelly's pointing at us. So that means we're either live on Facebook at Big O Tires in Kansas City, Missouri, 700 Northwest Englewood Road, or she's accusing us of something. And both can be true. This is Facebook Live. We're here to talk Chiefs. And let's take roll. Vahe
Gregorian, Kansas City Star.
here. Sam is here, Sam Mellinger. And back for his second appearance on Facebook Live is Sam McDowell. Sam, good to have you back on Facebook Live. So we're here to talk Chiefs.
So we introduce the fifth.
The fifth
guest as well.
the fifth Beatle.
Yeah.
I thought you want to plead the fifth.
We should have. We should have. So we're here to talk Chiefs, and we're looking forward to Sunday's game at Oakland, and we'll look back at the opening game victory against the Raiders, or against the Jaguars in that sweltering heat in Jacksonville. Guys, one thought that occurred to me in the aftermath of the Jacksonville game was a year ago, the Chiefs had to play many games without their entire complement on defense, right? Yeah. Eric Berry for 3/4 of the season. Justin Houston missed a handful of games. So they're two top defensive guys.
Is the audio working, Shelly? We're getting some comments on audio here. It is working, though? Yeah. Okay.
So their two top defensive guys missed a lot of games, between them an entire season, right? The offense never had to deal with that a year ago, right? Unless Kareem Hunt went out with the suspension at the end of the year, they plugged in Damian Williams.
And Laurent, but not as
yeah. But not star power.
Right.
Affecting the game plan, I think, defensively. And the Chiefs are faced with that now, right? With the absence of Tyreek Hill, with Patrick Mahomes, with the ankle, who every time he talks and every time he speaks to the media or in public appearances, he says it's fine, it's getting better. But he didn't have a physical issue a year ago. In fact, he broke his wrist in college when he was at Texas Tech, and he had surgery on it, missed some time. But as a Chief, hasn't missed any time. He's not going to miss this game, but he is not 100%. I think we can establish that he's not 100%. So,
and certainly he's not going to say I'm not 100%, which is part of the sort of process here, right? But both being the tough guy, but also this is the NFL after all, and state secrets are what they are.
Right. So is this team equipped to withstand a loss of Tyreek Hill and maybe a Patrick Mahomes at not 100%?
My quick thought is just we saw that in the immediate moment, right, in Jacksonville. No Tyreek, and Patrick not fully himself. 30 points with that. Maybe you take one field goal off because they were already on the drive. But so I guess the question would be: is Patrick going to be any worse off physically than he was Sunday? Right, than he was last Sunday.
And we won't know that really, right, Sam, until
I mean, he had tape on his ankle yesterday at practice, so I mean, he's going to be going through some things. He mentioned that the ankle was more sore Monday than it was Sunday during the game, which I think is to be expected, right? I mean, but he did say it's sort of the run-of-the-mill ankle injury. I think the phrasing he uses, if you play sports, you know what I'm feeling right now. So the question is, like you said, is it going to limit him? And it did on Sunday, because he said he couldn't scramble a couple times that he would have had he been healthy to extend plays. And let's face it, that's one of his biggest strengths.
Yeah.
I heard this comparison earlier this week. I thought it was kind of interesting that in the first half he was Patrick Mahomes, and as good as he's ever been. 211 passing yards in the first quarter, 313 by halftime. Then he gets hurt, and in the second half he has to become Alex Smith.
Totally.
Game manager.
Yes. When I didn't think about that in real time, but like rewatching the game, it was like that's I've seen that offense. I've seen that. And I thought, though, in some ways it was as impressive as the offense has been in the last 2 years with, in the Pat era or whatever, because they had to do all this stuff like on the fly with no prep. If whether Mahomes is 60% or 95% or whatever on Sunday, they've got a better idea of kind of how to deal with that, and without Tyreek. But they had to do all that on the fly. And it really was, they became the 2017 Chiefs who scored a lot of points.
Right. It was a good offensive
I think they were
team.
like second or third in the league in points that year. But I think that what it showed, and I think we've known this, but it hasn't been displayed this sort of obviously, that Patrick is good, he's great, normal, at full strength, but he can also be great as a game manager. He can also be great, just with the dump-offs and all that stuff and keeping everything moving. I thought it was tremendously impressive.
Yeah, in the moment, I just looked at the numbers and thought, wow, just a typical Patrick Mahomes, 375 and 3 touchdowns. And, of course, that's normal. Yeah, no, that's right. That's what we've come to expect. But to have done more than half of that on a bad ankle, basically immobile,
Yeah.
that takes it to a different level. And one of the reasons he was able to have the success that he did, or the Chiefs continued to have offensive success in the second half, was LaShawn McCoy is, I don't know, but he just got lost in Buffalo, right? He's a revelation to me. I didn't realize that he still had the quicks that he had. And I got to think, you had the great story, Sam, about he's watching the first 2 series from the sideline, and he's just marveling at the offense. And then he gets in the game, and he had to think, man, I'm not in Buffalo anymore.
I think the speed of everything is what impressed him the most. But there was that 131-yard run he had in the second half where gaping hole next to Eric Fisher. But he still showed a burst in getting to that second level, I thought, potentially even getting past a guy that did catch him there. But the snaps, I think, were 45 for Damian Williams, 20 for LaShawn McCoy. But McCoy didn't know the full playbook yet. They told him, this section of it we would really like to include you in, make sure you know this stuff, and you have to think that increases this week, and potentially the snaps maybe level out a little bit more.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't you think the ratio starts to change now?
LaShawn McCoy was the better back on Sunday than Damian Williams was, and could be other factors that go into that. Like I mentioned, there was a gaping hole on his 31-yard run that certainly improved the stats. Damian Williams was more involved in the pass game than LaShawn McCoy was, but you have to wonder if that's maybe because that was the section of the playbook that he was absent on.
Yeah, I got to think that LaShawn McCoy, when Kareem Hunt went down last year, the Chiefs did a really nice job of making sure Damian Williams made him as effective as a player, the running back, and being in an Andy Reid offense. But I think LaShawn McCoy brings to the Chiefs some skills that Damian Williams doesn't have, and now you can maybe expand the playbook a little bit, or at least have a different expectation for that position with McCoy. And Damian Williams still does really nice things. He's good out of the backfield, runs great routes, but McCoy brings him something that I don't think Damian Williams or Darwin Thompson has, although we haven't seen much of Darwin Thompson.
And I think we thought one of the maybe few things we sort of pegged about right going into that game was about the ratio of times LaShawn would be in compared to Damian. But I had no idea he had that burst still. I just had no idea. I'll be surprised if he doesn't come to take more plays than Damian. Maybe not yet, but I think that's going to be the ultimate thing here. And of course, we're basing it on one game. And good point, Sam, on that play. What does Damian Williams do on that play? Maybe he gets 31 yards also.
Maybe. The other wasn't a revelation, but for Sammy Watkins to have the game that he did, I think that would allay some fears that with Tyreek Hill out, they don't have a number one type of receiver. He was very much a number one receiver. The best of Sammy Watkins, again, in Buffalo, didn't have a game quite like that. Common theme alert. But on Sunday in Jacksonville, Sammy Watkins was fantastic. And we talked about this on Sunday night after the game, showed me speed that I guess I had not seen. He always had, because you made sure that we knew his 40 time. You were accurate, 4.43 as I recall.
I think that's right.
But Watkins was fantastic. And again, Sam, you wrote about him after the game. Was he surprised at his performance?
Yeah, he mentioned that he knows the playbook a lot better in year 2 than he did in year 1, so he doesn't have to do as much thinking mid-play on the field. But I guess just to sort of add on to that, from a different perspective, as John Gruden talked to the Kansas City media yesterday, and he said on tape, Sammy Watkins' burst on that first touchdown play is one of the 2 or 3 fastest bursts he's seen on tape in his 2 years since he came back to the Raiders. So that's not just a guy here in Kansas City blowing smoke. I mean, that's another coach that's seeing something different out of Sammy Watkins, and he thought it was because Watkins looked healthier than he has.
What was interesting? Oh, sorry, Blair.
I was going to say that there's a smoke blowing alert when you talk to NFL coaches. I mean, they are effusive in praise.
He did say that he hasn't had any distractions all year, so if that sort of puts all of his comments in sort of that tunnel.
What distractions?
Yeah.
Locked in.
Said the coach who had Antonio Brown for a month.
I'm sorry, but just real quick about that. They had a starting offensive lineman suspended because he tried to cut his father's head off at the funeral, and nobody talks about that. It's just buried under like all this other stuff. It's just. God.
Yeah, that
Sorry,
probably should have been part of the intangibles. We were summarizing this game.
Sorry, go ahead.
I got nothing really. But,
Follow that up.
But I do want to
What do you
say
got, Vahe?
this, and you included this in your story the other day, Sam. But I thought it was really interesting. Sammy Watkins just kind of dropped this into conversation when I think he was talking about the first touchdown. How his eyes met Patrick's eyes, and usually that doesn't mean that means it's a rare thing that he's going to get. He actually said
somewhere else.
It's rare. He actually looks to me. Yeah,
Right.
I thought
I think he was referring more to that play, that because he was Mahomes
I
said
see.
Mahomes said he was
Okay.
the 3rd or 4th option on that play. I mean, we all saw the play develop that, and I actually even thought Tyreek Hill might have been a little bit open on that flat route he ran behind the backfield. And that was option number 1. Option number 2 was Kelsey. He looked at Kelsey, he was covered, and so then he went to Watkins. And so I think he was referring to, I don't usually get looked at on that play.
Okay, because it was funny the way he said it. I don't think
It
he
was funny
completed
the
the
way he
sentence.
said it, yeah.
The other quick thing about his speed on that play, we're used to seeing Tyreek accelerate into a cut, right, or accelerate off a cut. That was what Sammy Watkins did in that burst. That was I didn't really know what his pure 40 was. I thought it was a 4.41.
Yeah, I think we all did.
Common misconception.
But the cut itself, that part of it, and playing off the Demarcus Robinson block, I mean that was really something.
All right, so the Chiefs have had the luxury of having their top 3 pass receiving weapons available to them, and Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce. That will not be the case in Oakland. So for the first time, we'll have to see the Chiefs do without one of them. And is this team equipped to handle that? Because now, who are we looking at as next man up? Is it Demarcus Robinson? Do we expect him to have 7 receptions, 10 targets, sort of thing? Or is it McCole Hardman, DeAnthony Thomas? They're actually kind of short on wide receivers right now because in terms of Watkins, Robinson, Hardman, DeAnthony Thomas, and then we're talking about Tremont Smith, moving over. So they're, it's not like they've got a full set of triplets they can send back out if with the starters out. So who steps up, and are they equipped to handle the loss of Tyreek?
I love the idea that Tremont Smith just is wherever. They'll just, like if LDT gets hurt, we're like, we got Tremont here. He's a good athlete. I just love this. I think that there's a really good case, and I might even make it, that Tyreek Hill is the second most important guy on that team, football. But I also think that a lot of teams would love to play a game with Mahomes, Kelsey, Watkins, Robinson, Hardman. I mean, that's still pretty good. I do think it changes things, right? Like, he's a unique talent, and not just that, but a unique fit for the quarterback. It has to change things. McCole Hardman played a lot, but ball only came his way once, and he dropped it. And that's got to be a big difference. Sammy Watkins is going to get different coverage. Than he did in the first quarter against Jacksonville.
Right.
But he still did pretty well after that. And I think about the third touchdown, right, where he went in, and that was on Ramsey. Went in on Ramsey near the goal line, kind of pushed off, and then, with not much space, the throw was there and he made the catch. So I think they're equipped to do it. It's not the same as having Tyreek back there, but
Right, absolutely.
there's a lot of teams that are going to be like, oh really? Like I feel so bad for the Chiefs.
Right. Let's talk quickly about the offensive line, because if Mahomes isn't, if he's not 100%, I think officially Jacksonville was credited with 4 hits, and there were a couple of more hurries there. He didn't get sacked officially. I can't remember. I don't think he got sacked, right?
Well, the fumble.
Did that count as a sack? He lost the fumble on the play.
That was that weird play
That was
with
the
11
play
penalties.
that actually
Yeah.
never happened.
Yeah.
Doesn't go on the
Theoretically,
stats.
yeah.
Right.
The
Yeah.
grounding too. He should have had a sack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that wouldn't have counted because there was a defensive holding down the field. But I thought he got hit more than 4 times,
I thought so
Yeah,
too.
that surprises me.
I thought 7, 8.
Yeah.
and he got hit hard a few times,
So-
including
the
that
play
Watkins
the
throw.
play that doesn't count, he got hit on, and that wouldn't
Yeah.
go in the stat sheet. And that was the worst hit of the game because that was the one he got hurt on.
Yeah.
Well, so let's keep in mind, too, I know we said it often that Jacksonville has a pretty good defense, and Josh Allen, the rookie defensive end, was just terrific, and he gave Mitchell Schwartz fits during that game. Look, Oakland was impressive defensively against Denver on Monday night. They held them scoreless in the first half. You keep a team scoreless in a half in the NFL these days, you're pretty impressive. And let's just guess that Mahomes won't have the same type of mobility that he usually has. Does this limit the Chiefs a little bit?
A little bit.
I think it does a little bit, but I also think it sort of pries open Andy's imagination in other ways too, right? I mean, I think when you take away some choices from them, that's too bad. It's not infinity, but I think they have so many different ways they can go. As you guys alluded to, with you'd be an okay passing attack with this lineup without Tyreek Hill, right? I mean,
No, that's right. I agree. So, all right, let's switch it to the other side quickly. I assigned grades during at the end of the game, and I gave the offense all A's, passing, rushing, but mostly because of McCoy for the rushing. But I gave the defense B's, and kind of on reflection, I thought that was maybe a little too generous. And then I remembered Jacksonville had 13 points at the end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
That game was over essentially, and tacked on 2 touchdowns late. It was never a kind of in-doubt game, so I'm not going to punish myself too much for the B's, but there are some issues and some things that probably need to get fixed. I know one of our Raiders, Brian, wants to know about Charvarius Ward. Thought Charvarius had a bad game. I haven't seen the grades for the game from Pro Football Focus, so I don't know how Ward graded out. I think it was an odd game because after Nick Foles left, Gardner Minshew came in, and Sam, as you said, Minshew now a career 88% passer. He's probably the all-time leader in that.
Absolutely.
So and watching the game again, he had some nice throws.
Yeah.
He did. He just had some nice moments. Everything was short and quick, and that was to avoid Frank Clark and Chris Jones. So what were the issues that the Chiefs need to fix defensively going into Oakland?
Well, if I can underline that a little bit real quick, like there were some throws that if that was a different body making those throws, you'd be like, oh, well, that's a good quarterback, so you got to give him that. I mean, there were some legitimately big-time anticipatory, is that a word? Anticipating,
It is now.
kind of throws. But I thought a couple things that stood out to me about the defense. One of the things about Spagnuolo, we've been told, and not been told, we know that he likes a lot of stunts and twists at the line. Didn't see that all that much.
No, right.
There were some blitzes, not a ton, some really effective ones. Damian Wilson got in there a few times. There were some miscommunications on the back end that they really need to clean up. But the Ward thing is weird. The long pass, the 69 yards, it looked like he thought there was help behind him. Now, he was still a step or two behind, so whatever. But there was another play and it was near the goal line. I can't remember if Jacksonville scored. I think they did, where it looked like they were in zone coverage, and Charvarius kind of didn't pass off his receiver. He stayed with his guy, and it left, I can't remember if it was Shark or Westbrook or whatever, open on the left side. And those are little communication things that they really need to clean up. Some of that is like young players. Some of that is new scheme, but they need to improve that for sure.
I thought Jacksonville did, and I guarantee you Derek Carr will do the same thing this week because he did in the game in Oakland a year ago. He will get rid of the ball quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And that, that mitigates what, Frank Clark and the strengths of Frank Clark and Chris Jones and, Agba and Okafor and Passanio and what they're, designed to do. So I wouldn't expect too many sacks against Derek Carr in Oakland, and I would expect a high completion percentage. Again, I think it's just a matter of the Chiefs keeping them in front, keeping the game in front of them, and not and putting enough pressure on third down to maybe get the ball back. But remember the game in Oakland last year, Carr was really good. He was 20. Had similar stats as the combined Foles-Minshew game, and 3 touchdowns, had a high passer rating, and they scored 33 points. It was 40-33. The Chiefs, one of those typical Chiefs games where they had to outscore the opponent. So I expect it to be, Oakland impressed me enough, and a second year with a new coach. I think Oakland's going to be able to have some success offensively. You guys agree with that?
I do, for the very reasons you're saying. I mean, and it's kind of interesting. We haven't even thought about this yet or talked about it yet, but at some point, is Andy Reid's dominance as a division just going to be, ready to come due? I mean, what is? Do you guys remember the stat offhand? I mean, something like 80-2. I mean,
he's 10-2 against the Raiders as the Chiefs.
10-2 against the Raiders, and I don't know. I'm also interested. This is a little different question than you're asking, but I thought watching some of that Raiders game the other night, the energy there was different than energy we've seen in our trips to the Coliseum before. I mean, there's something going on there with the last season, right? And
for sure,
it's going to be kind of stoked atmosphere more so than we've seen, even for the hated Chiefs coming to town.
Josh Jacobs could be a problem for them.
Yeah, I thought Jacobs was impressive. I do wonder how much of Monday night was the Broncos just being a bad football team.
Totally.
I didn't think the Broncos were impressive whatsoever, and it looked like a last-place team to me. And I still think the Raiders are potentially a third-place team, but their top wide receiver right now, absent Antonio Brown, is Tyrell Williams, who the Chargers were just fine with letting go last year. It's not like they have a ton of talent on the outside that you have to deal with. But what they did on Monday was what you've been talking about. Carr got rid of the ball quickly. I think he had 3 incompletions at one point late in the fourth quarter. And I think that's the type of offense that they're going to see. You're going to have to see a lot of tight coverage in order to stop that.
Well, again, I don't think the Chiefs are going to get to Carr often. It's just designed that way, and they'll have to. But I don't. I'm trying to think. Carr did beat the Chiefs in Oakland. Was it in 17? Maybe the last year that Alex Smith was the starter.
That was the game.
The night game.
With all those penalties
at the end. Yeah.
At the end of the end zone.
That's where you and I were standing about 15 feet from where Crabtree caught the game-winning touchdown pass.
Chiefs might have been undefeated going into that.
That's right.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think it was Andy's first or second year. Then they have the winning streak or something, and then or Oakland hadn't won a game, and then their first victory of the season came over the Chiefs in another
Thursday night.
Yeah,
and
night game.
When Eric Berry got hurt.
Yes, the Eric Berry discovery game.
Yes.
So I think we're talking about the history of the series. I think John Gruden actually has a winning record against the Chiefs, and maybe Andy Reid. I'm not sure about Reid, but certainly against the Chiefs he has a winning record. But that goes back to his first stint in Oakland when the Raiders were much better than what they are now. I've been meaning to ask this on a kind of a Twitter poll question, but I don't want to do it this week because the Chiefs are playing Oakland. But who's a bigger rival for the Chiefs? Is it the Raiders or the Broncos? And is that a generational question?
I feel like it's the Patriots.
It is now,
right
isn't
now.
it?
I don't know. I think that the Raiders are just different to me. They're a unique franchise. There's not another one like them. I think that, to me, it's always felt like the hatred with the Raiders is like a genuine hate. you know, and the one with the Broncos is kind of like, I'm so sick of Elway and Manning, you know, just beating us. I feel like that's been sort of the vibe, at least to me. But right now, like, this may be proven to be a really stupid thing to say by, you know, late Sunday afternoon. But I feel like there's a big gap. I feel like the Chiefs and the Chargers, and then there's a gap, and then these other two teams. I don't know. They're just not that impressive to me right now.
All right, so Sunday's going to be Sam McDowell's first trip to the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum.
Good things.
Yeah.
What
I really do love it.
Yeah, I was going to say, what can Sam expect from his first trip to Oakland?
Well, I mean, this is going to sound made up, but it's not. There's a chance, because it's happened before, that a media member will be getting in his seat in early second quarter because he will have to give a statement to the police of the stabbing that he witnessed in the parking lot. That's actually happened before. You can expect terrible Wi-Fi, an obstructed view seat. The floors are always damp, kind of smells. It's great. I really do love it. I absolutely love it. And I mean that like sincerely. I'm going to miss the place.
I am too. I am. I'm glad you're gonna get a chance to see it. I think everybody should have a chance to see a football game. You only have one last opportunity. It's odd that their Chiefs are playing the Raiders this early. I know I read the Chiefs or the Raiders release. It's been like 10 or 12 years since the Chiefs have played in Oakland this early in the season.
So first time that I can remember going there with the dirt being a factor.
That's right.
The baseball field, yeah.
The baseball field's down, and that's been a topic of conversation this
the last
week.
one, right? With
Could
the
be.
baseball field?
Well, they're in playoff
A's
contention.
Yeah, you're right.
But it could be. History.
It's just so weird, right? And somebody asked this. I mean, do you call plays differently in that part of the field?
I don't see how you can call plays differently. I do think you have to have some awareness, though, because you slide on that dirt more than you do and the grass was slippery. I saw some players slip on the grass on the turf at Oakland in that Monday night game, but
It's always wet.
it's always wet.
It's below sea level.
You can have drought, and it's always wet at that stadium. So we know that the Chiefs have practiced a little bit, or at least one Chiefs player this week has had some work on the dirt, right? Harrison Butker.
Yeah, it looked like on Twitter last night, Butker and Colquitt went over to Kauffman Stadium. I had the grounds crew let them in and practice kicking on the dirt.
It was a smart move.
They might say nothing is different, but if you're making a trip over to Kauffman Stadium just to practice this, then obviously they think there's something different about it.
Yeah, like I said, I can't remember. I just can't remember the last time the Chiefs played on dirt. And you know that. And when this stadium, or when the Raiders move to Vegas next year, that'll be the last stadium where you can play on dirt. And I can remember, I'm old enough to remember many games where the infield, at least, artificial turf in some cases, was part of the September and October football stadiums. You know, you had the outline of and then you go to baseball games, you watch a World Series, and there still be the chalk from the football game that weekend on there. Doesn't happen much anymore. So, all right. Listen, as always, send us your questions. We'll try to answer as many as we can. And Dean Mann agrees with Sam that it's Raiders first, Broncos respected rivals, Chargers really don't matter. But yeah, it's the Patriots. But and I know Andy has had a couple wins over New England, but I think he needs to get a big win over New England, a January victory.
That's exactly right. That's the win he needs. But the game is it October, November?
December.
It's December, early
I think
December.
it's first week in December.
May determine where that game in January is played.
Yeah.
Didn't seem to matter last season, but you're right.
It was just funny because we all went out after the game, and there were two Chiefs fans just living and dying with that Patriots-Steelers game, already knowing that this is the team.
Just groaning.
Cussing Roethlisberger like they grew up in Pittsburgh.
Like you hear them first, and there's some Steelers fans back here, and you turn around, and they're decked out in Chiefs stuff.
Oh man. Okay. Look, we've got. We'll get to some predictions here in a second. Hey, what do we make of Reggie Ragland being inactive? That was the surprise inactive. We always try to guess who the inactives are on Friday.
I don't think any of us had him on our list.
No, nobody did. Nobody had Reggie Ragland inactive. What does this mean? What do you think?
I think mostly special. I mean, the other two guys play special teams with Dorian O'Daniel and Ben Neiman, and they're significant contributors when you look at the snap count on special teams. So my guess is he wasn't going to rotate in with the starting group of linebackers, so why not get the guys in there that are your best special teams players?
Was this forecast a little bit by all his time in the Green Bay preseason
Yes,
game?
it was.
I mean,
The fact that
a
he
little
was,
bit of a statement there about
the fact that
his
he was on the
status.
right, he was on the field a lot, and so the fourth preseason game, the starters never play, and here comes a starting defense out there, and Reggie Ragland is part of that, and you're going, whoa, what's going on here?
He played a lot.
Yeah, he
in
did.
the game too. Like, I think he played into the third, maybe
Different
even the fourth quarter.
positions. He was rotating around.
Well, that's it. The part that was surprising to me is like nobody really in the regular season of the the linebackers that played in Jacksonville played that Mike position. That's weird.
Yes.
You go into the opener and it's just not. Practice is a different deal. I'm sure they did that there, but it's just that's the part that kind of stuck out to me.
So, as we've commented, the biggest defensive play of the game against Jacksonville was provided by Damian Wilson, who I think has a chance to be an impact defensive player for this team. I'm looking forward to seeing this guy play a little bit more. Right? He's got some skills.
He's fast.
Yeah,
He's
fast.
fast. He closes quick. He takes good.
That's going to be.
Pass the ball.
He's got a key asset because let's face it, a lot of teams are going to be passing late against the Chiefs, and they need linebackers that can cover. They didn't have those guys last year, so if he can occupy that role, he's going to be a key player for him.
Which might be part of why Reggie Ragland's inactive, right? Because Reggie Ragland is just he's got some strengths, but speed is not one of them, and they got exposed a lot last year with running backs out of the backfield, and Damian Wilson, as we saw in that 3rd and 2 with Fournette,
right.
where he stripped it, but still would have had the tackle before the sticks. I mean, that's a big difference.
And you go back and look at that play on film, and he's got to kind of work through traffic to find Fournette.
Came across the field.
Yeah, still there's a blitz going on that play.
Mm-hmm.
He maneuvers behind some of his own teammates and gets to him in a hurry.
When did we see that play last year?
Saw the other team make it.
Yeah, other team. Yeah, we saw it. We just didn't see anybody in a red jersey or.
Dorian O'Daniel had a good moment, didn't he? It was at the Cincinnati game where it was sort of like, oh, okay, like he might be but he's sort of more of a hybrid, right? Like Damian Wilson's a linebacker.
Right.
Like, I mean, he's a linebacker. O'Daniel's kind of a safety linebacker-ish.
Sam is right. Special teams has an impact here because Neiman and O'Daniel are important. Like, I don't know if they're four-phase, but they run a lot of the special teams. So, okay, this is where we give Shelley the heads up because we're going to do where the rubber meets the road and pick our project our players to have big games on Sunday at Oakland. Hey, Vahe, we'll start with you. I don't think we need to take Patrick Mahomes off the table. We can include him, but if you say him every week, then you usually wouldn't be wrong, right? He was not AFC Player of the Week, though. Who was it? There's another. I think it was Lamar Jackson or somebody.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't.
Asterisk.
Yeah.
Dolphins.
Right. So, who's your rubber meets the road pick this week?
I'm going to say McCoy. I'm going to say that he'll get more involved with the passing game. I think he'll give them a chance to make up a little bit in versatility, diversity, whatever you want to call it, the absence of Tyreek. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay. Sam, you got one?
Tyrann Mathieu. I'm going to go a little bit away from, the beat it road or whatever. But I think that he didn't do much.
Veering off the road.
Where the rubber meets the guardrail. He didn't do much in Jacksonville. He wasn't in on a lot of plays. And I feel like what we've been talking about, quick passes from Oakland, I think that sets up well for him, that he can anticipate before the snap and knock some ball down, maybe even get an interception or a turnover. So that's my guy.
Okay,
I think he'll make an
Quick
impact.
interruption about Tyrann. How much do you feel like that was simply a function of got only a handful of plays in the preseason? Did it actually matter in his case?
I don't know. That would have been a good story for a national NFL writer to do, is how players who didn't play a snap in August fared in the first week of the NFL. I'd be kind of curious to know that. Because Matthew certainly, of all the Chiefs, he's the one who didn't play, who you kind of wondered about. Would he need the reps? He's the one who said, but he did say a year ago he didn't play in the preseason at all. He had career high in tackles.
Yeah, but I don't know how that played out in his first game.
Right,
or two,
in week
right?
one.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, Sam.
I'm going to go with Travis Kelce, I think, and I know that's probably an easy pick. But I think that Sammy Watkins is going to get a lot of attention on Sunday based on the game he had and based more on probably how he showed up on film from that game. So I also don't think the Raiders have anybody that can cover tight ends. The one guys that we saw from Denver sort of had good games with those over the middle of the field routes. So I think it shapes up well for Kelce to have a big game.
And if he does, it will be the second huge game in a row that he's had in Oakland because he set his career highs in receptions and yards. I think it was 12 for 168 at Oakland last year. 2 touchdowns, which matches a career high for Kelce. So good call,
Going
Sam.
with the underdog pick.
That's right. Right. I'm going to say Juan Thornhill. I think in a game where there'll be a lot of short completions, I think it's going to be so important for him to get there. And his speed, that's the thing that was noticeable to me when I was keying on him in Jacksonville, was just how quickly he got to Fournette and receivers who had short receptions. I'm really impressed with his speed, and he had the one penalty. Was it? I forgot what helmet to helmet. Yeah, which I thought was a kind of
drive on Conley. Yeah.
Right, kind of a shady call. But he was actually in the locker room after the game, kind of griping about it a little bit. Said I didn't think it was. So anyway, I'm going to go with Juan Thornhill. I think he's going to be so important. His speed's going to be important. Hope he can keep his feet on the dirt and on the slippery grass in Oakland. So all right, so there's our rubber meets the road. Let's come up with some predictions for Sunday, and Sam will go the other way. We'll start with you. Give me a score, and how do you think it'll unfold?
I'm going to say 34-23. I don't think the Chiefs are going to have a lot of trouble in this game. I think it's going to actually play out pretty similarly to Jacksonville. They're going to get out to a lead before halftime, and then defense will probably give up some yards in the second half, sort of playing prevent. But that goes back to what we talked about early on. But this defense is going to be in that situation a lot. So they may have only given up 13 points in Jacksonville in the first 3 quarters and given up some points late, but they're going to need to prepare to be in that situation because based on the way the offense plays, they're going to be in that situation a lot this year.
I agree. Sam?
It's similar, probably 34-17 or so. I don't think the Raiders I think they're going to be as good Sunday, and I think 33 or 34, whatever I just said, it's kind of an off game for these Chiefs. So between the grass. That kept coming up in the locker room yesterday. Like the grass is really slick. That would negate some speed, right? That wouldn't be good for fast teams, which the Chiefs are. But they're still going to score.
They can't not score.
Nope.
They just can't. Not, right?
Even if they tried.
Bye.
Well, I'm in about that ballpark, 35-20, something like that. And I guess if they go over 26 points, it'll be an NFL record for most games in a row, 26
At
points
least
or more.
26. The
Tied with the Broncos
Yeah,
now,
2012,
right?
2013 Broncos. I think it was 19 straight games of 26 or more points.
Think about that. I mean, that's never before done, and hard to believe it won't be done.
They only scored 26 once. You remember who held them to 26 last year?
Cardinals, I think.
Arizona Cardinals. The 3-13 Cardinals, which fired their coach after the season, but had a good defense. The Cardinals were good defensively.
Chandler Jones had a day.
Oh, remember him? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. You guys are on it. It was 40-33 in Oakland last year. The Chiefs had like a 3-touchdown lead in the second half, and Oakland closed it. And it actually got to within 3. The Chiefs had to score. I think it got to 33-30, and the Chiefs had to score to get some breathing room in the fourth quarter. I think the Chargers they've got the short week because they played Monday night, but I think they're full of energy, and maybe last year in the Coliseum gives them a little bit extra bounce. I thought the weather in Jacksonville was going to have an impact on the Chiefs last week. None.
Yeah.
None. I thought it was what Anthony Hitchens said Wednesday in the media availability was really interesting. He said they didn't feel it. He says they didn't feel it at all. That they thought they were the team in better condition, better than the Jaguars who play and practice in that. But it didn't seem to bother the Chiefs. So But I do think the field has the ability to, there's some slippage that's going to happen on Sunday on the field with the players that could become a factor. But I think something similar to last year, 38 to 30, because I do think the Raiders will score, especially in the second half. So with that, hey, we've enjoyed talking to you guys on Facebook Live from Big O Tires in Kansas City. We're going to do this every Thursday throughout the season. Come and join us at Big O Tires, but absolutely follow us on Facebook Live and follow all these guys on Twitter. It's the best Chiefs coverage going. Thanks, Shelly Yang, and press the button because we are out.